Mary Turner was a young African-American woman who was lynched in 1918 in Georgia, USA. Her lynching was part of a wave of racial violence that occurred during that time, often targeting African Americans. Mary Turner was 8 months pregnant when she was lynched. The violence against her began after she spoke out against the lynching of her husband, who had been accused of involvement in a murder of a white plantation owner. This act of speaking out led to her being targeted by a mob. The mob captured her, tied her to a tree, and set her on fire. Her unborn child was cut from her womb, and she was brutally killed. This horrific act sparked outrage and became a symbol of the extreme violence and injustice faced by African Americans during that era. Mary Turner's story is a tragic and significant part of American history. In 1918, in Brooks County, Georgia, a racial violence incident led to a series of lynchings, including that of Mary Turner. Her husband, Hazel Turner, was accused of being involved in the murder of a white plantation owner. This accusation led to widespread racial tensions and violence in the community. Mary Turner, who was 8 months pregnant at the time, spoke out against the violence and injustice of the lynching of her husband. As a result, she became a target of the mob. On May 19, 1918, Mary Turner was captured by the mob. She was tied to a tree, and the mob set her on fire. While she was still alive, the mob cut her unborn child from her womb. After the child was removed, the infant was stomped on by members of the mob, resulting in the child's death. Mary Turner's lynching and the brutal murder of her unborn child became a powerful symbol of the racial violence and injustice faced by African Americans during that era. It sparked outrage and drew attention to the need for social and legal reforms to combat such acts of violence and discrimination. Mary Turner's story is remembered today as a solemn reminder of the horrific consequences of racial hatred and the ongoing fight for justice and equality. Unfortunately, no one was prosecuted or held accountable for the murder of Mary Turner and her child. During that time, there was widespread racial violence, and many instances of lynching went unpunished. The legal system at the time often failed to provide justice for African Americans who were victims of racial violence. Efforts to seek justice for victims of lynching were often met with resistance, and perpetrators were rarely brought to trial or convicted. This lack of accountability contributed to a culture of impunity for such acts of violence. Today, Mary Turner's story serves as a reminder of the importance of seeking justice and confronting the history of racial violence and discrimination. It highlights the need for ongoing efforts to address systemic injustice and ensure that all individuals are treated with fairness and equality. The acts of violence and brutality, including lynchings, were indeed acts of terror that targeted Black individuals and communities, instilling fear and attempting to suppress their rights and freedoms. Acknowledging this history is essential in understanding the ongoing struggles for racial justice and equality. It also highlights the importance of remembering and honoring the victims of such acts of violence. By understanding this history, we can work towards building a more just and equitable society where everyone is treated with dignity and respect. Her story is a poignant reminder of the brutal history of racial violence in the United States and the ongoing struggle for justice and equality.